Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's podcast from Submissive Guide. I'm Luna. Today, we will talk about the struggle with apologizing as a reflex and how to make better word choices in our everyday situations and relationships. But before we get into the topic, it's here. Our refreshed Patreon is officially live. We've been working behind the scenes, and it's finally time to share the big news. Our Patreon page just got a glow up with brand new benefits, refreshed tiers, and exclusive content just for you. Join us as a student for early access to content, freebies, quarterly mini classes, and live Q&As. Become a Submissive Guide student today at patreon.com/subguide. I was raised to say please, thank you, and apologize if I did something wrong. This politeness is ingrained in us as children. Being polite serves as a way to express empathy and respect for others. However, the phrase "I'm sorry" has become a reflex rather than a meaningful expression. Many of us use it so often that it becomes automatic, without a thought, even when it's unnecessary. Perhaps you know that you apologize a lot and struggle with saying "I'm sorry" without thinking. I know I do. We all know there are times when an apology is warranted and essential, but many situations don't actually require it. While it can seem harmless to say sorry frequently, the truth is that when you over-apologize, it can have unintended consequences. Apologizing when it's unnecessary sends the message that we're unsure of ourselves or constantly taking the blame, even when whatever we feel the need to apologize for is out of our control. This habit can make us appear insecure and timid, shifting the focus of the exchange from constructive conversation to self-blame. If we begin to recognize the impact of overusing "I'm sorry," we can start to reclaim our voice and shift how we interact with others. We can stop taking blame when it's not even our fault. For those of us who are used to pleasing others, as a submissive or in our daily life, the need to apologize can become more frequent. But as you'll see, there are alternative ways to express yourself that don't diminish your confidence or self-worth. In fact, I've found that by using these approaches myself, I've not only felt more positive, but more confident in my abilities. Instead of apologizing automatically, let's explore alternative ways to express empathy, responsibility, or gratitude without undermining your submissive self-worth. Number 1. Find a way to say thank you instead. While "I'm sorry" and "thank you" are both polite responses, their impact on a conversation is very different. Always apologizing can unintentionally reinforce feelings of guilt or inadequacy. Over time, saying sorry too often becomes an automatic, empty response that can lose its true meaning. In contrast, expressing gratitude shifts the focus away from self-blame and highlights appreciation. Let me say this again. Saying thank you instead of apologizing when the situation warrants it is a better choice. Personally, I found myself saying "I'm sorry" for the smallest things, especially when I felt I was inconveniencing my dominant nightmare or possibly disappointing him. I assumed I knew how my actions affected them, which in many cases led to unnecessary bottom-topping on my part. Worse still, I began using "sorry" as an excuse for my actions, which created unnecessary tension between us. This cycle wasn't healthy for my submission or our relationship. Saying thank you instead of apologizing demonstrates appreciation for the other person. When you thank your dominant, you acknowledge their patience, understanding, or presence, rather than apologizing for your perceived mistake. This shift not only improves communication between you, but also helps you strengthen your dynamic by emphasizing respect and positive reinforcement. Here are some examples. Thank you for your patience, instead of "I'm so sorry I'm always late." Thank you for listening, instead of "so sorry for going on and on and on." Thank you for spending time with me, instead of "I'm sorry for taking up all your time." Number 2, apologize without using the word sorry. An apology isn't just about saying sorry. It's about taking responsibility for your actions and committing to doing better in the future. However, as I've shared already, the word sorry can sometimes feel like an automatic reflex that doesn't always convey the accountability or a plan for improvement. Instead of relying on sorry to express regret, try owning your actions more directly. This way, you show that you're taking responsibility and emphasize your willingness to make things right without defaulting to self-blame. Next time you feel the urge to apologize, try using one of these alternatives. It's unfortunate that this happened, but how sad for you that this situation occurred. I sympathize with your disappointment or frustration. What a shame that this situation has unfolded. Will you please forgive my insensitivity or error or indiscretion? I fully acknowledge my fault here and will do better next time. I regret the pain or inconvenience this has caused you. This situation has left me with deep regret. These options allow you to express empathy and take responsibility without the self-deprecating undertone that can accompany over-apologizing. By focusing on the situation and your commitment to do better, you help the conversation remain constructive while also respecting your dignity and the feelings of your dominant. Number 3, don't apologize for bothering people. We've all been there. You need to ask a question or get someone's attention, and the first thing that comes out of your mouth is, "Sorry to bother you." But here's the thing. You're not bothering anyone by simply seeking assistance or trying to engage in a conversation. Apologizing for approaching someone or having a question only reinforces the idea that your presence or opinion is somehow an inconvenience, which isn't necessarily true. Instead of immediately apologizing, approach the situation confidently and respectfully. For example, when you need to interrupt someone or ask for their time, start by politely waiting for a natural pause in the conversation or for their attention. You can then say something like, "Is this a good time to ask for your assistance? Can I borrow you for a moment? Would it be all right if I ask you something? Do you have a minute to help me with this? I hope I'm not interrupting, but I have a quick question." These phrases are more polite and considerate. They convey that you value the other person's time and space while asserting your needs. You don't need to apologize for asking a question or making a request. You're simply engaging in everyday conversation. Number 4, practice empathy instead of giving a sympathy sorry. Many of us use sorry to express sympathy, but this word often fails to provide real emotional support. Sympathy is a passive response. It acknowledges someone's pain but doesn't necessarily make them feel heard or valued. Instead of defaulting to "I'm sorry" when someone shares a difficult situation, try to connect with their feelings by practicing empathy. Empathy goes beyond just acknowledging pain. It's about understanding what the other person is experiencing and showing them that you genuinely care. For instance, instead of saying, "I'm sorry you're going through that," try, "That sounds like it was really hard for you." This small shift makes the person feel heard and understood because you reflect their feelings rather than just offering a generic response. It shows that you're actively listening and engaging with their experience. Empathy also extends beyond words. You can offer practical support or show you care through action. Instead of simply saying, "Is there anything I can do for you?" offer something tangible, like picking up coffee, bringing over a meal, or simply asking, "Would you like to talk about it?" Sometimes the most valuable thing you can do is provide a listening ear or a comforting presence. In these situations, actions speak louder than apologies, and your willingness to offer support makes a far deeper impact than just saying sorry. Number 5, ask for constructive feedback. It's so easy to fall into the trap of constantly apologizing when you've made a mistake or haven't completed a task as expected. I've certainly found myself apologizing too much when I felt I had let my dominant down, often using "I'm sorry" as a knee-jerk reaction to my own anxiety or feelings of inadequacy. However, repeated apologies can signal a lack of confidence and may not help resolve the issue. Instead of offering an empty apology, shift the focus towards self-improvement by asking for constructive feedback. When you approach the situation with the intent to learn and improve, you take responsibility without putting yourself down. Instead of saying, "I'm sorry," try something like, "Can you give me feedback on how I can do this differently?" Or, "I'd appreciate your input on how I can improve this next time." This shows your dominant that you are committed to growth and open to learning, which will help build trust and strengthen your relationship. Asking for feedback not only helps you grow, but it also demonstrates a proactive mindset. By framing your request in this way, you show that you're focused on improvement rather than staying stuck in feelings of guilt or inadequacy. This is a fantastic step forward for submissive growth and building that mindset. My entire world shifted when I started using feedback moments as a chance to learn instead of feeling like I had failed or that I had some other negative self-talk going on. Constructive feedback is an opportunity to learn from mistakes. This is precisely what we want to be doing so that we're not stuck repeating behavior our dominants do not want. Approaching a situation where you made a mistake and asking for ways you can do better fosters healthier communication and development within your relationship. Breaking the apology habit. Overcoming the habit of always apologizing requires a shift in mindset and behavior. Like any deeply ingrained habit, it won't change overnight. But with some practice, you can gradually retrain yourself to respond in more empowering and constructive ways. Number 1, become aware of your triggers. The first step is recognizing when and why you apologize. Are you apologizing out of habit? Are you trying to avoid conflict or make others feel comfortable? Keep track of the situations that trigger your automatic apology. Are you apologizing when you haven't actually done anything wrong? Once you identify these moments, you can start to interrupt the cycle. Number 2, pause before you speak. Give yourself a moment to assess the situation and determine whether saying sorry is truly necessary. Ask yourself, is this really my fault? Or what am I trying to convey here? This brief reflection will allow you to choose a more appropriate response, whether expressing gratitude, empathy, or simply continuing the conversation without an apology. Number 3, replace apologies with other phrases. As you've heard in the previous alternatives, replacing sorry with phrases like "thank you," "can I help," or "how can I improve" helps shift the focus from self-blame to positive engagement. Start practicing these alternatives in everyday situations. The more you consciously replace sorry with something else, the less power it will have over you. For example, when you're late, instead of apologizing, try saying, "I appreciate you waiting for me," or "thank you for your patience." Number 4, reframe your perspective on mistakes. Instead of viewing mistakes as failures, see them as opportunities for growth. Mistakes aren't inherently negative, they're simply feedback. By reframing your mindset, you begin to see yourself as a person who's learning, evolving, and open to improvement, rather than someone who is perpetually in the wrong. This mindset shift will reduce the urge to apologize reflexively and allow you to respond in a way that supports your positive mindset. Number 5, practice self-compassion. Lastly, be kind to yourself. It's natural to apologize when trying to be considerate of others, but remember that you don't need to apologize for existing or simply being human. Treat yourself with the same empathy and understanding you offer others. As you practice these new approaches, celebrate small victories, and don't be too hard on yourself when you slip back into old habits. Change takes time, but with patience and persistence, you'll find yourself apologizing less and living more confidently. Breaking the habit of over-apologizing is not just about avoiding saying sorry. It's about building stronger, healthier connections with yourself and others. When you pause before apologizing and replace sorry with gratitude or empathy, You reinforce your self-worth, confidence, and respect. This shift isn't quick, but each step forward is progress toward a more empowered, authentic version of yourself. Now, think about today. Will you choose to apply these new approaches? Maybe it's thanking someone for their patience instead of apologizing for being late. Perhaps you'll ask for feedback instead of falling into the trap of unnecessary self-blame. Wherever you start, remember that these small changes will profoundly impact your submissive mindset, dynamic, and feelings about yourself. You are worthy of being heard, understood, and expressing yourself in ways that honor who you truly are. You can create more positive, fulfilling interactions by letting go of the need to apologize for things that aren't your fault and adopting new, empowering ways to communicate. Trust yourself. You're capable of more than you realize. So go ahead and start today. Every time you catch yourself about to say sorry, stop, reflect, and choose a response that amplifies your value and intention. You've got this. I've really enjoyed talking with you about alternative approaches to saying I'm sorry. What have you learned about yourself from this episode? Tag us on a post on Instagram and let us know. Before we wrap up, a huge thank you to our members on Patreon for helping choose today's topic. Want to help shape the next episode, get early access to all our content, and unlock exclusive education and freebies? Head over to patreon.com/subguide and explore all the amazing perks waiting for you. We can't wait to have you join us.